The legacy of Mel Kettlehut embodies so many of these good gifts already mentioned. Mel was a gentleman, gentle and kind, always on the scene to help out when there was a need with friends, neighbors, or weekly gathering clothing for our guests at the open door. Mel was a man of faith from his youth. His confirmation verse in 1939 was Psalm 50, verse 15. Call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. Mel knew he could turn to his God anytime, anywhere, his God, an ever-present friend. And Mel also knew how to be a friend, enjoying the richness gained from loyal friendships over the years. One example is the friendship of Mel and the Reverend R.V. Maynard, who is with us this morning. They were classmates and good buddies all the way through high school. When Mel was in the Navy and R.V. in the Army during World War II, they kept in touch, writing letters back and forth the whole time. But then later, their lives lost touch for many years as they moved on with marriage and other things that occupy us in life. But at their 50th high school reunion, Mel, who did not attend that year, sent his biographical update. And R.V., who was there, found Mel's contact information, got in touch, and their regular contact began again, including their many reunions every year afterwards, even though Mel lived in the Detroit area and R.V. in West Virginia. Mel's broad interests made him a lifelong learner, moving him well beyond his college education and his professional life. He was an avid reader, a history buff, with a particular interest in the Civil War, as well as in Winston Churchill. Mel loved old cars, having a special place in his heart and, as I understand, in the garage for his rare 1940 Lincoln Zephyr, which he restored so that it won several awards, was exhibited in many venues, and even brought Mel some national notoriety when he was interviewed on the Today Show. His love of music found Mel playing not only the piano and trumpet, but with Betty's encouragement, the bagpipes that Betty loved so much, and I guess Mel must have too, because soon he was marching with a bagpipe band in local parades and playing for religious services around the city. Mel rounded out his musical life singing with the Ford Street Chorale along with Betty for many, many years. He also loved theater, and many summer days were spent in Stratford taking in some grand and memorable performances with Betty. Betty, married to Mel for, I believe, 63 years, is clear about Mel's legacy. He lived his life in such a way that everyone liked him. He had no known enemies anywhere. Even in the hospital and the nursing home, as life was changing and the challenges were many, Mel was still making good friends. The things I will remember most about Mel are his wonderful, warm smile, clearly signaling the kindness that he lived every day. Those twinkling, fun-loving eyes showing mischief in the making, although you were never quite sure what he was up to. And his comforting, visible support of the new pastor at his church. When I last saw Mel, an hour or two, or perhaps only a few minutes before he passed from this life, I still could see the kindness and that mischief-making that had been a part of Mel his whole life long. It was clearly there on his face. Mel's confidence in God's presence with him in that moment of transition, just as God's presence had always been with Mel, is perhaps expressed well in the words of the song, "I was there to hear your boarding cry." I was there to hear your boarding cry. I'll be there when you are old. I rejoice the day you were baptized to see your life unfold. When the evening gently closes in and you shut your weary eyes, I'll be there as I have always been, with just one more surprise. Mel is with God as he has always been, ready for all the surprises God has for him still to be discovered. Now our task is to honor the legacy left to us. Mel's legacy to us, the legacy of all who have passed from this community in this past year and before, the legacy of all who have passed from our families, the legacy of all those important people who have passed from our lives in the physical way we have known them. Of course, we must mourn. In many ways, our grief will always be very, very real, always with us. That's just the way it is when you love someone. At the same time, we courageously focus our eyes forward, set on the path others have paved for us, bravely building this path a little further down the way, or even boldly making a new path as Spirit leads us on. The legacy of the living Christ, left not only to disciples of long ago, but to us in this time and place, supports us on the way we need to go. The power and authority given not only to disciples of long ago, but to us right here today, empowers us and emboldens us to follow the Jesus way. The legacy left to us by loved ones, no longer with us in a physical way, provides us with the tools and the building blocks to carry on where they left off, expanding on what they have done, and continuing the ministry of the living Christ. Just as the living Christ promised long ago to be with 11 disciples, always to the ends of the earth, wherever God's call on their lives took them, just as the living Christ is with us until the end of time, so too, our loved ones are with us in the many ways we have yet to discover. Thanks be to God. Amen.